The Sean Diddy Combs trial, and the people thought it was over. It's still going on, as they have not released Diddy yet. But today was the acquittal hearing to see if they're going to actually drop these charges right before the sentencing date. So we're here to tell you everything that went down in the transcripts so you can hear it without any nonsense that they're trying to feed you and create theories on social media and just go off the facts. They're academics, brother. Heck, what your brother doing out here? Did we just step in a time warp? Was that academics 30 years from now just popping up? That was crazy. Yes. So this is going to get a little strange. But yes, y'all ready? Because I'm ready. We need to get into this and unpack what happened today. Because they trying to do your man dirty still. Anybody who say Diddy didn't do it or you stood by Diddy, they're not being treated fairly. Right? So we already know that's how they playing the game. Right? They playing a dirty game. They some dirty birdies. Hit the like button up, please. Please, please, please. Because we about to get to it. I don't want y'all to miss nothing. That's why I said stick around. It's gonna get crazy around here. Mm-hmm. Now, shouts out to okay, no, somebody outside. Shouts out to the inner city press. The inner city press has been doing a tremendous job over the years and covering cases, not just the Diddy case. The Diddy case has really brought out a lot of who he is, you know, as a person, but sitting in the courtroom, detailing this scale, that's probably the biggest thing he's ever been around covering, especially with this kind of notoriety. Now, yeah, when people see a stature or let's say a difference of opinion, they don't, if everybody don't get an assembly and get in line, they try to tear down that person without understanding what's really going on first. So let's understand what's going on first. So the U.S. versus Sean Combs hearing for a motion of acquittal on a new or getting a new trial. So it kicked off at 11:04 a.m. New York time, East Coast time. So Diddy was still in the waiting cell, and at the defense table, Alexandra Shapiro is now representing, is also her brother Justin, Justin Baldoni, and she's representing what's his name, Charlie Xavier Donaldson, Nicole Westmoreland, Brian Steele. They all there, right? Agnafino is there. So the prosecutor, Stone Faces, is in the front row, right? So Diddy is brought in from the MDC jail uniform. He's in a button-down shirt, you know, and they said the order for him to have a button-down shirt wasn't signed in. All kind of craziness that they're trying to pull, right? So Sean Combs unloaded papers from a big file folder. He is seated between Driscoll and Brian Steele. Now they waiting for the judge to come in. So Judge Subramanian comes in, and the clerk said appearances. And they said with us is Mar Gallegos. Sorry, Tenny Gallegos. And then they laugh, right? As Alexandria Shapiro said that. So Judge Subramanian comes in and says, you don't have to take the full 15 minutes. If you said all you need, please provide everything that you had. So the AUSA comes in and says, we point to you, the U.S. versus Kelly, Circuit 2025, which stands that Combs' Rule 29 argument had to have been raised pre-trial. They waived that right. And this is the judge's first question. Any case that has deemed a defendant Rule 29 argument waived or forfeited. And the judge said, let's separate out the jury's instructions. You're saying that this defendant's constitutional argument should have been made at Rule 12 stage? And Johnson says, that's correct. So the defense gets together and the judge says, the defense is making an as applied argument that they can do in on Rule 29. Like Johnson must be asleep or something at the wheel. It's like, do you not understand what they can ask for? They understand what they can ask for. That's why they're asking it. If it was something they couldn't do, they wouldn't have asked for it. The judge, they wouldn't have gotten this far. This is your argument? So Johnson says, I want to push back on their reading of the cases. And Dennis, the defendant, was arguing that couldn't be tried without infringing on the First Amendment. The parties agreed it was only about sufficient judging, but the court went right past the waiver. Then they said, the judge said, Ms. Shapiro, can you address these arguments? Diddy's lawyer, Shapiro, says, the Dennis case is on point. The court made clear that statutory constructional arguments can be raised under Rule 29. Also, the Lopez case. I argued it. So she argued this case. So the judge said, let's put the financial motive to the side. Why wouldn't Mr. Combs be liable under a willful causing theory? Miss Ventura or Jane furnished the payment for the escorts, but Mr. Combs still had the relevant intent, no? And so Shapiro, Diddy's lawyer, get up and said, no. Many states find that prostitution is only when A pays B for sex with A. Here's the government is trying to get around it, but the cases where people watch other people having sex is not prostitution. The actus reus in the Mann Act is transportation. Thank you. Put the facts back, put all the thoughts back to the facts. You're basically trying to say this man was doing prostitution when he wasn't. And he's been acquitted of that. So you keep trying to throw that back on him. It's like, how you gonna say I'm acquitted of something, but still keep trying to use that, saying I was doing that for transportation? No, this is about transportation. Stop. So she goes on. She says commercial voyeurism is not prostitution. A number of states says there's the Paulino case in New York and the Georgia case. The government had alleged that a private residence has been used for prostitution, but the court says no voyeurism. So she says again, the statute originally had a section about debauchery, which was exercised later. The Supreme Court reversed a Seventh Circuit holding that had affirmed a conviction where the defendants did not have a commercial motive. And they said traveling interstate with a woman, being a mistress or a concubine. And the judge said the Cleveland case said polygamy met the immoral purposes test, right? And Shapiro said, respectfully, I disagree. There was a late 19th century case about immigration. And she said all the federal constitutional law that developers are around privacy and develop around privacy of sexual situations and sexual relations. And the judge said, Miss Foster, so AUSA Foster in here, and we all know Maureen Comey is not doing this anymore, so they got to rely on the B team. So Foster comes in and she says, this case is different. That's where a person in a booth watches, people having sex. Combs is challenging the term prostitution. Here, the woman helped arrange the transportation of the escorts, so the defendant is aiding and abetting. So the judge said, you're saying that they had the intent, they paid the money, they had the sex, that is willingly caused? And Shapiro said, may I respond? And the judge said, I'll give you time at the closing. Ms. Salvik, USA Salvik, you can speak now. So Ms. Salvik gets up and says, she was ready to destroy that argument, but the judge want her to wait to closing. So Slavic gets in here and says the record does not show that every time an escort traveled and had sex that the sex act was filmed. They only say routinely filmed. He frequently filmed freak-offs or hotel nights, but not all the time. So Salvik is really messing up here. They say the explicit video chart shows that there was travel for sex, but sometimes there was no videos recovered for those encounters. We can pull up the exhibits. So the judge said, you argue that even if they were filmed, it wouldn't matter? And Salvik says, right. The Mann Act criminalizes travel for prostitution, not filming of the sex. So the test for symbolic speech is whether there is an intent to convey a meaning. The transportation conveys no message, so there is no symbolic speech there. And in O'Brien's case, the protected symbolic speech was the burning of the draft cards. Here, transportation is not a symbolic speech. And the judge says, well, if a movie producer is making an adult film, are you saying the First Amendment is not implicated? And she's like, closer call. So the AUSA, she's like, in other cases cited, the producer said, when they transported, we'll be filming a movie here, he only intended that the individuals to engage in prostitution. The defendant here was not an amateur adult film producer. And the judge says, if we get to O'Brien case, what is the important government interest? And she said, there is a substantial government interest in regulating prostitution. 478 U.S. Code 697, 1986. The court declined to apply O'Brien because that act had nothing to do with speech. So, right away, Diddy's teams are huddling. They're talking because they're bringing in these other cases to try to show the similarities in these cases. So they're talking and they're getting all their notes ready. Diddy's writing down notes, telling them, talking to Brian Steele about what he thinks about what's happening in the case. Everything is getting crazy. So now the AUSA comes in and says, Justice Souter, in distance, said he would have applied O'Brien, but he agreed that regulating prostitution is an important governmental interest. On laws against nude dancing, courts find secondary impact important. So Salvik said there are reasons to regulate prostitution. See erotic service providers, 880 F3D 459 circa 2018, about a California prostitution law. It's to prevent violence against women and for health. All 50 states regulate prostitution to different degrees. Now all these people saying prostitution is illegal in every state except Nevada. I keep trying to tell you, there's different levels to prostitution. And the government just told you they regulate prostitution. Not that prostitution is illegal. It's regulated to protect women. Meaning, if you have an erotic service, that could be considered prostitution. It's regulated. So this is what I was trying to tell you about listening to clowns. Stop listening to clowns who are sending you down the wrong road. These, especially when you're listening to this case, it's all about the notes, the transcripts, what is said, actually translated by the actual people saying it. That's what's important. If they're not reading it from the transcript, don't listen to them. Give you a non-expert opinion because they want clicks and views. Now, she just said it. All 50 states regulates prostitution to different degrees. Can't get no clearer than that, Playboy. So don't get mad at me. The federal government just said that. Because they know there are services out there that rich people use all the time for these services, for their company. And they don't get thrown through this trial. You know how many people be locked up for that? Well, we know who the clowns are that's doing this. That's out here trying to milk this thing instead of telling y'all the truth. I could believe Kwame put that video that guy said out there today. I was like, oh, come on, KB, no. Don't do that. Now, here it is. The federal interest is what she said. The federal interest kicks in for transportation interstate and internationally. The Barnes case, she's Slavic is still rambling, talking about the Barnes case find out requiring pasties for dancing. That was okay. And they was like, Ms. Shapiro, on the First Amendment, this is the judge talking now. They going back to Diddy's team. They said it was filmed the majority of the time. And Shapiro says, just because the footage wasn't found doesn't matter. The U.S. has ignored our Second our second First Amendment. We second the First Amendment argument. That was a consumer of amateur video, adult video. As to being a producer, amateur adult video is protected by the First Amendment. See? You're learning the law right now. Amateur, so that means y'all making a video at home. You and your wife want to record y'all freaky time. And y'all like, baby, I'm gonna record freaky time, me and you. You could do that. That is protected under the First Amendment. If that wasn't the case, everybody who do that is committing a crime. So you understand that now, right? You have the right to record freaky time with you and your wife or your girl or whatever. That's protected under the First Amendment. Now, everybody knows because they've been doing it. These people do this stuff all the time. They upload it to these adult sites. Amateur stuff. They do this stuff all the time. Whether it's right or wrong, they do it. So you are protected by the First Amendment for that. Because if it was illegal, then everybody going to jail. They can shut down all the adult sites and can get those amateur people out. They gone. He said, not freaky time, man. It's like at the trial, they emphasized that it was choreographed, that they were role playing, wearing wigs. It was filmed, so covered by the First Amendment. But Mr. Combs also had a right as a consumer of amateur adult video. See the Free Speech Coalition versus Paxson. They brought up the Coalition versus Paxson case. Then they said, Jane even bought a TV so they could watch the videos together. And the judge says, how does that apply to the transportation count? And Shapiro said, if the intent included filming and watching later. So not prostitution if it's recorded and watched later. She said, you wouldn't have to find this. This is a unique case. Mrs. Salvik pointed out that the government's other interests included transportation across the state lines. You have to look at the conduct of the defendant. They say drug use. The only drug charge here in the RICO charge of Mr. Combs was acquitted. The DOJ policy doesn't even say what Ms. Salvik says. It says the statute should only be used on prostitution as a business or trafficking of minors. Boom! And then she said, the judge is like, well, those were my questions, Ms. Shapiro. So the judge is trying to be partial. Like, see, the judge right here is not supposed to have a side. He's the mediator. Now the judge is in here having a side. Talking about those were my questions, Ms. Shapiro. And then Shapiro says, I believe Ms. Foster said the two women testified they were paying for prostitution. We must have been in a different trial. I don't remember either woman saying they were involved in prostitution. Boom! 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 Right there. Finally, it's been said. So while the judges keep trying to reiterate or trying to make something that didn't happen, they just went through a trial. You just went through a trial. How in the world you gonna tell them? Don't you remember the case? Don't you remember him getting acquitted? They treating him as if he was found guilty. They got to keep reiterating to him that he was found not guilty of this. So that's why she's like, I'm confused, because in the RICO, they said he wasn't guilty. And the only thing that would be in here is trafficking of minors and this. So why do you even, when you said this is the question you're asking, why are you asking? You the judge. You were the judge in the damn case. You didn't know the man was acquitted? Damn. I don't have a point. The lawyers have a point. I'm just responding to their statements. See, I'm going off the transcripts. This is what was actually said in the case today. So if somebody argue with you and try to tell you what they think, you tell them what you know. Because I'm telling you what was actually said word for word, verbatim, in this courtroom. So all the opinions can be there after the fact. And she brought up a good case. She's like, we must have been in a different trial. I don't remember either woman saying that they were involved in prostitution. Boom. So now the judge is scrambling. Let me ask you, a businessman takes one of his clients to a brothel and pays a prostitute to have sex with his client. That's not prostitution? Shapiro said, is he a voyeur as well? The Mann Act has racist origins. Even 100 years ago, the statute has been criticized by many Supreme Court justices. Many juries refuse to enforce it. This statute is embarrassing to the U.S. I submit respectfully. Boom! There you go, Shapiro. Drop them bombs on this judge. Boy, she doing a hit 'em up job. She was like, Mr. Combs should be acquitted of the Mann Act counts. Thank you. Boom. Then the AUSA jump up there. The purpose of the Mann Act has no impact on the First Amendment activities. The arguments about the DOJ policy, those are being argued before. There was a motion to dismiss, denied. The claim that there should be no concern about secondary effects because it was behind closed doors. But that's the point. Mrs. Ventura was being punched and kicked. The defendant had the burden to show that the evidence was not sufficient. They can't do it. Cassie and Jane both testified, although they didn't want to be having sex with others, but they had to do it for days. He planned them. He choreographed them for his own pleasures. If the escorts couldn't perform, he was paid less. This went on for 15 years. The evidence is sufficient. The defendant's motion should be denied. The judge said, thank you. Anything you want to add about sentencing if the motion is not granted? And she says no. And he says, okay, I'll decide soon. The court is adjourned. So they all got up. Everybody went to talk at the desk. So Alexandria Shapiro did her thing. She tore into them. We must be in another different trial because I don't remember either woman saying that they were involved in prostitution. They never did. Neither one said it. Cassie went live on her Instagram page and said this was about domestic violence. Said it herself. So the motion to overturn, now they're waiting on the judge. They have presented their case and it was clear and concise. What do I think they would do? I think they're going to want to go right to the sentencing and see what sentencing they come up with. And it might come out with time served, because anything other than that is ridiculous. Well, you're dealing with results that don't usually matter. When you put them in situations where well, no, they want to go by patterns of abuse. Hit the like button, good people. See, that's what they want to use as the trigger. They're going to say patterns of abuse. But we're not talking about the, oh, shit. Hold on. Yeah, the patterns of the abuse. That's what they talking about. There's the patterns, and don't forget the abuse, the abuse. Cassie was getting punched and kicked. You mean the one when Cassie was punching and kicking too? She was fighting back. Oh, you were there? I mean, you ain't gonna be able to tell this story one way. We ain't gonna let you get away with that. They've already did a great job of a teardown piece. So if they're doing a teardown piece to promote an agenda that doesn't make any sense, why is it that we're even here in the first place? And just like that, they come along and mess with my live stream. You saw that, right? You see what they tried to do? You saw that, right? They mad. See what they tried to do? That's what they do when they mad. They big mad. Because you didn't caught them with their hand in the cookie jar. So they knocked everybody off the live stream. Now, who would have the power to do that besides the federal government? Yeah, we hit the switch by mistake. Oh, we're so sorry. You sorry you did it, or you sorry you got caught? Now that y'all know every detail that went on in that courtroom today, they can't lie to you. You see, that's the thing. You have the knowing. That's why I did it. That's why I decided to do it, because I said, look, I got to tell them everything that went on in these courtrooms, because if I don't, they can lie. They can manipulate. They can twist the story. They can make it be whatever they theorize like they want it to be. And you've been seeing that. Instead of telling y'all the truth, and then when Diddy gets acquitted, then they create a remix and be like, oh, Diddy paid him. You said Diddy was broke, so how he paying him? You said Diddy's in trouble, he getting 20, 30 years. He ain't getting out to 2038. That's what you said. None of these people have law degrees. What lawyers have you talked to? What lawyers do you have that have done RICO cases? I've spoke to them all. I've talked to lawyers that are international lawyers, the ones that work out of Milan. Yes, live out by Monte Carlo. So they work at some of the biggest, largest legal law firms in the world. And said, I've never seen anything like this. Front line and center. I've never seen anything like this. Hit the like button up, since they coming and doing this sabotage job. Oh, what hurt? What hurt is that people don't realize that in different scenarios and situations and atmospheres and, you know, stuff that's supposed to really matter to people, you're always going to have clowns. You're always going to have people that don't measure up. Okay? And when you have that, what you have is a distortion. And when you have this distortion, can't nobody really relate to the subject matter at hand. They can't relate to the ego and all of this other stuff. So I hope all of y'all have signed up to my Patreon. Join the Casino for Life Patreon ASAP. There's free stuff on there for you. There's stuff that we got coming up, like today or later on tonight. We're going to be doing places for real estate. Best places for you to go for real estate. Like the cheapest property if you're an investor, but we're going to give you the pros and cons of it. Best cities, rather, to go in. You'll be surprised that some of the cities is New York and Illinois. Well, some of the states is New York and Illinois, where they have these hidden cities that it's relatively cheap to own a house and get things done. But we did all that work, so we're gonna let y'all know about it. He's a big timer. He's bigger than the system that is. I guess if you believe he's big like that, if he was that big, he would took Kwame Brown down a long time ago, but he can't. Hey. Oh yeah, we'll talk some more about this case on the Patreon too. Some very key factors that was in this case. Now, what she was doing was battling the judge and his central intelligence, since he was the one that had the questions. Since the judge had the questions, when he's like, oh, that's my question. Oh, you got the question? You weren't the judge in the case? And said, oh, okay, well, I must have been in a different case then. I must have been in a different trial. I mean, that's how it went down. Like, I must have been in a different trial. Because if you don't remember the fact that he was acquitted in the RICO, and you are inquiring that now, not one, I don't remember any of the women saying that they were involved in prostitution. Not one. Mm-hmm. Even when those fake letters they sent there. I love it when they say that. Well, he need to be locked up. Why? He's already been locked up. He's already done 13 months. All these people who's coming out lying, saying he's harmful to them, when they weren't even in his life. And he never did anything to these people in years, never contacted them. Now, you got this crazy chef talking about someone broke in her car and moved some papers around. You got all kind of nonsense going on. Yeah, it's a lot to process if you're not paying attention to the world. But that's why I say you need to ask yourself, is it really worth it in the end? Is this the goal? Is this what we're trying to achieve? Make it make sense. That's all I ask people. Make it make sense. Because if it's not making sense to me, it's probably not going to make sense to you. Them knocking us off the live stream. What was that about? They're upset because we telling them the truth while everybody else is regurgitating lies. Trying to paint a narrative to fight for the damn prosecution against a black man. When this case is all about people doing what the hell they want to do and people doing it for money. Now they don't have any money anymore. Now they want to say they was a victim and play victim. I have a problem with that. Because they don't seem to do it with anybody else but with people of our color. Man, I wish I would. An ex-girlfriend of mine come up and say something. Man, I'd drop kick her at the damn stand. See what I mean, Your Honor? She can have the money. Here's a drop kick from hell. Coming in there lying on me. Right, you rooting for something that will lock you up for nothing. Every rapper in the world now will be going down on the Mann Act, if that's the case. You feel me? Every rapper will be going down off the Mann Act, if that's the case. That bronze stuff catching up to you. I don't care about no bronze stuff. Ain't nobody even mentioning that bum. We'll mention him when it's time. Nobody even talking about him. All these other people forcing LeBron material. Like every day they forcing it. I'm like, dog, he ain't even doing nothing. Nothing noteworthy to be forcing it. But that's what they gotta do. But then if I say one thing, make one video, you always talking about LeBron. I'm like, everybody else been talking about him for the past whole summer. Y'all went from that to all I talk about is Diddy. And I was covering the trial. Trial was over. We wasn't talking about Diddy. So they just don't like what you say, and people gonna hate anyway. Because here we are not even talking about him at all. Yet and still, people bring his name up. Now, oh yeah, the super chat works. The Cash App is Carcino if you want a Cash App. Appreciate it. Byron Jackson, always holding it down with the Cash App. So we appreciate the love and support. Yeah, well, when you're doing something that's great, when you're doing something that's great, you seem to have people that do things just to try to rile you up, try to get you all riled up, right? People often did things to try to rile you up. I'm serious. You've never had anybody try to rile you up? I gotta make sure I ain't getting bit here from behind. Yeah, a couple of them tried, but it's an epic fail. Exactly. There was no RICO there. Clearly, there was nothing they could do, even if they tried. It was a weak case. Every lawyer told you this was weak. I told you, even with the Mann Act, even the people who don't even try the cases, they're international lawyers. And they go, the Mann Act charge for this? It's ridiculous. Because normally if the man wasn't charged with prostitution, they would, kick the guy out. If he wasn't charged for prostitution, the Mann Act charges would normally been thrown out. Because those are really state cases. So the fact that they were state cases and they were still moving forward, with the Mann Act, holding it down like this was the main case. It's like it's predicated on these counts he won. So it's like, okay, you can get a conviction on it, but then later throw him out because it's ridiculous. The same thing they did with Jonathan Majors, right? They quietly went to court and got it overturned. But in the court of law, it made it look like he was real guilty when all the media was there. But when all the media was gone and everything dissipated, then they went to a court and they said, yeah, you're right. He appealed and won the appeal. And they got the whole thing removed. So he doesn't have a charge on his case. Jonathan Major don't have nothing, but yet he lost his job. He lost everything. This dude was about to make $20 million a film. And they went through there, cleaned out his accounts. Nobody would hire him. His agency dropped him. Nobody even thought, let's look and see what's happening first. Michael B. Jordan wouldn't even say his name, let alone speak with him. And they had a #1 movie out at the time. He had 2 movies that grossed over $100 million at the box office. He had Quantum Mania, and he had Creed 3. And then they keep praising films like Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, who really didn't have a lot of black characters, right? So they promoted them, built them up, gave them great reviews, but they didn't even bring in the money Ant-Man and the Wasp did, right? Hated on them. Captain America, Brave New World, Black Captain America, can't have that. But it's in the comics. Even the first one, Isaiah was black. I don't care about that. We need Steve Rogers. So that came in. They didn't even want to go watch it, but they did. And when they watched it, guess what? It made more money. They even redid the artwork, put more money in, snatched the title off Thunderbolts and turned it to the New Avengers. In the middle of a launch. After the numbers started to drop, they took the tag off and now they're the New Avengers. The New Avengers? Really? We're gonna run that angle. In the middle of a promotion, when you're trying to cut costs, you put that in as part of the budget? Okay. And why was it done? Why was it done? Because they wanted to do better than Captain America, and it failed. Fantastic Four didn't beat Captain America. It failed. So with a leading black character, it was successful. So then once they start seeing that, they're gonna say, oh, well, that was because of Red Hawk. People want to see what Red Hawk was gonna do. It's always something to take away from the black characters. And we in 2025. Now, Kane the Conqueror got to fight to get him back into the movies. And I know the Doomsday plot. I just haven't been trying to blow up Marvel's spot. Yeah, but that's what they changed the narratives to. Kicking people out of the live streams. I don't know how well what they're doing with this Doomsday is going to go over once you see who Robert Downey Jr. is actually playing. I don't know if it's going to go over well. It might. I just have my doubts. Well, you're looking at the percentages wrong. Now, when you get your percentages right, then you'll see that it's all there. The numbers are there. The figures are there. It's all there. Yeah, that's what they all said. I showed y'all the notions that they filed, the motions. That's the actual motion they filed for the hearing you hear today. Hey now. All right. Talk to y'all later. One.